Hello everyone of YouTube. This is DZ Maven here with a special video series here. I've been kind of thinking about doing something like this for a while now, and I figured now would probably be a good time here. So basically what this is this is going to be basically my own tutorial on basic Gunpla building here. And this is going to be multi-part series, so there's going to be several videos of it, so if there's a part you already are kind of aware of and you don't really interested in, you can always skip ahead to the next part here, which I'm sure might have some more information for you here. And I do kind of want to put this out ahead of time. This is the way I tend to do things, so I kind of want to make it apparent, but there is really no absolutely right way to be doing something in Gunpla. I mean, it's very much a creative art in a sense, so there are multiple ways to accomplish things. But this is just my way of doing things, and you might know a lot of this stuff already. That's fine, or you might pick up a few new tricks along the way, and I certainly hope that you do here. So anyway, this first part here, I kind of want to talk about tools and materials and the things you're going to want to have on hand to basically build Gunpla here. Now this is the stuff that I tend to use the most here, which as you can see here on my table here, right here, it looks like a lot of stuff, but it isn't that much stuff. Not everything here I use for every project, but most of the stuff I do tend to use for all my kits here. So, and again, like I said, it may seem like a lot here, but if you're just starting to get into Gunpla and just want to make a decent kit right out of the box here, I would probably say at the bare minimum you would want to have a craft knife like this here. These are very common, easy to get a hold of. There's a few different brands, but X-Acto tends to be the most popular brand of knife like this, with the standard 11 blade here and metal handle here. Also, you want to have a pair of nippers of some sort. This makes your life a lot easier when it comes to working on kits here. You can just clip your parts right off the nub and use the hobby knife or craft knife, if you want to call it that, to clean your nubs up with that here. But this is what you need for basically getting your parts off these sprue trees. And beyond that, if you want to do some basic detailing, you're going to want to have these here. These are the basic panel line markers that you can get. They're Gundam markers here. You got a gray color and a black color. These are thin tipped markers made for going into panel lines. You can see it clearly on the camera right there, but these are really fine tips here. But yeah, these craft knife and nippers, that is the basic bare minimum I would say you probably need for making a decent Gunpla kit here. If you can't find the Gundam markers, there are micron markers, which are, I have one over here. There's also microns, which are very similar. They have a very similar tip to the Gundam markers, but I do find these tend to wear out a lot faster than the Gundam markers do, so but just beware. If you can't find those, you can probably find the micron markers at a arts and crafts store. But stepping up from that, the stuff that I tend to use here, I do have the craft knife. I don't tend to use this as often anymore because I have a better knife, which is this here. This is a Ofla knife. OLFA brand knife, and it's very similar to the Tamiya hobby knife here, and it's probably the reason why I tried to pick this up, because I wanted to find something similar to the Tamiya knife, but the replacement blades for the Tamiya knife are kind of hard to come by, so I picked up the Ofla blades, which are also made in Japan, by the way, and these are the closest thing I can find to a Tamiya knife, and they are a lot easier to get a hold of. You might be able to find these in some arts and crafts stores. And the important thing for me was this blade here. As you can see, this blade is actually almost half the size of the number 11 blade. I've been using these number 11 blades for like decades, and they're basically general purpose blades. They're good for everything, but there is, to me, a lot of wasted space on this, especially when you're working with Gunpla. And these long blades are sometimes not the most helpful thing to have on hand. That's why I wanted to find a shorter blade, which is this here. Now these blades These are technically called deburring blades, which are actually made for basically what they are, what their name is. They take burrs off of things, which includes nubs. So they're actually kind of made for that purpose here. And having a smaller blade with a small kit is definitely a lot easier to use, and I find these blades tend to retain their edge better than the mass production number 11 blades. So yeah, if you have the extra money and are inclined, I would probably get a better knife if you can, like one of these or the Tamiya knife if you can get it. So, and also extra blades for the knife because you're going to burn through blades on kits here. I usually go for about one or two blades a kit here, so you might want to have a pack on hand just to kind of keep them on hand here. And if you want to upgrade your nippers, you can get better nippers than the basic ones here. I think these are some jewelry nippers is what those are. I got those for like $5 somewhere. But these here are some better nippers. These are the Gundam Planet ones. You probably have seen these around before when with other Gunpla builders and whatnot. But these are actually pretty good. They go for about $35 depending on where you get them. You can get them straight from Gundam Planet, or you can go on Amazon and get them. These are pretty good. These are probably second best in terms of nippers. You can probably find the best ones overall are the God Hand nippers, and those range about $50 or so here. But they're very similar. They kind of function the same way. I don't know if you can kind of see here, but there is a wedge part and there is a blade part to this nipper here. The blade part is on this side here, and the wedge is over here. So basically, how it works is it basically slices through plastic, and this is a lot better than the other nipper, which tends to crush through plastic, which is not what you want. So, if you want to upgrade your nippers, these are a pretty good choice here. Now, for other things you want to have on hand, there's different ways to do panel lining here, and I'll probably do like a whole video on panel lining here. But generally, what I use nowadays is a mix between these panel line markers and these here, which are they're technically called pouring type markers, Gundam markers here. These are not regular markers. They are basically, it's a lacquer paint wash inside a marker, is what this is. And it works the same way as a paint wash. You just touch it to a panel line, and it kind of bleeds right into the line and flows through it, and really good. You are always going to get some overspill with these things. I'll probably talk about it more when I use them, but since this is a lacquer-based paint in here, you don't want to use this on frame parts or ABS plastic, because that's going to basically destroy the plastic if you try to move it or anything. So, but for outside parts on the kit, these are great to use. In addition to that, I do have several Gundam markers I keep on hand here. They're not all Gundam markers. These two here are not. But I do keep a gold on hand, a basic silver on hand, and a basic gray Gundam marker on hand. I'd probably say these are probably the most useful ones, because I tend to use these for decorating some details on the frames, and the gray is good for filling in a few basic areas on some kits that are not colored in properly, so it works for me. In addition, I do have these Deco Art, these Deco Color paint markers, which are actually pretty good too. You might be able to find these in craft stores. I find the silver Deco Color is extremely nice looking. It's silver chrome look, and it's actually better looking than the Gundam marker, actually. They also have a gold one too. That's almost like a gold chrome look, and I find it pretty good here. The red I have on hand because the red is a opaque red, and sometimes I kind of want to have a opaque red to do a little bit of a spot detailing with here. The red that comes with this Gundam marker set I have here is more of a transparent red, so it doesn't always look good on a kit. So I have this opaque red I use instead, which is a lot better. And speaking of other Gundam markers, I do have this basic Gundam marker set here, which it's basic. It's what you need. Probably the only thing it doesn't have is a blue color, but I use it from time to time for some touch-up detail. But most of the time, I tend to use the black, this green, and the red. Like I said, the red is a transparent red. I tend to use this on sometimes clear parts for making them look kind of a clear red color, and the green, well, it is kind of a metallic green. It's also kind of transparent also, so I tend to use this for some transparent parts also here. And the black is just good for like quickly filling in something that's supposed to be black for me here. The other colors, the white, the yellow, pink, I don't really use that often, so they're just kind of in there. And in addition to other markers, I have this set. This is a Prismacolor fine tip marker set here. I got this a long time ago, and this is probably one of the nicest little purchases I found. And I don't know if Prismacolor makes these anymore, because I haven't seen them, but basically they are micron pens, and they just come in many different colors here. Got a green, I got a couple shades of brown, I got a blue, I got red, I got black, if I need another black. Sort of an orange color, and I think that's a purple color. So yeah, so I can use these for adding in some more details to kits here without having to go into paint. Speaking of paint, I do keep some paints on hand. I got some, these are various testers enamels. I just kind of grab these when I'm on the go, and they're pretty cheap here. I have like a basic gray, a red, a silver, black, and I have some clean enamel thinner I have on hand for if I want to do like a reverse wash on anything. In addition, some this is some basic thinner which I use for cleaning my paintbrushes with. It's kind of dirty, but it still works. And I got little paint trays for keeping some paint out of the bottle and for mixing it and for doing some panel line wash if I need to here. So these again are pretty cheap, so they're in like $5, so you can pick those up. Now for cements, probably the basic stuff you're going to find is the liquid cement, which is this right here, the extra thin Tamiya cement, $5.50. So it's not that expensive. You can pick up a bottle, and this will last you for a very, very long time because you only use it kind of sparingly. So. But if I need to get a little bit more serious about my cement, I do have some thicker hobby cement here, which is more of a gel type, I would say. Again, I don't really use this that often except for some really stubborn parts that just won't stay together properly with the liquid cement there. And this stuff over here is kind of optional here. I do got some sanding sticks here. These are some basic sanding sticks you can find at a basically crafter, and there goes my my tweezers. They slipped out because I was holding it upside down here. But yeah, these little sanding sticks you can find at Walgreens or a drugstore or stuff, or at the grocery store. They're cheap, and you can buy bunches of these and burn through them. They're pretty good for some basic sanding if you don't want to go into sandpaper. They also have a nice flat profile to them, which makes it a little easier for some flat nubs and everything. I do keep these little tweezers on hand. These are useful for, I found these most useful for water slide decals. You probably won't use them for too much else because I find with tiny parts they tend to, it's not that good at picking up tiny parts. I mean it can, but their tiny part will sometimes fly out of the tweezer, and then you'll spend the next half hour trying to look for the part. So it's not that useful for picking up parts, but I use it for water slide decals, which is a lot better here. So. And I do have like a basic file set here. Again, these are not that expensive. You can probably find these in a lot of places here. This set's pretty old here, but I mean there's a Tamiya set and there are other sets around, but these are good for filing down some hard to reach nubs and everything, so they're good to have on hand. And if you do want to get into sandpaper, there is lots of different grades of sandpaper. Here's some Tamiya finishing abrasives that I picked up a while ago. I have not used all of them, but I have used some of them, as you can see. I tend to use the finer grits more often than the heavier grits here. You just want to know, heavier grit is the lower number, finer grit is the higher number. Just remember that. So if you want fine abrasives, get the higher number ones. If you want some rough abrasive, get the lower number ones. And again, you can find sandpaper in like craft stores and Home Depot, Lowe's, and stuff like that. So if you need to find cheap sandpaper and not the Tamiya ones, you can always do that too. And over here, you have these other Gundam markers, which I'll talk about more when I get to Gundam markers and stuff. But these are Real Touch markers. I tend to use these for a variety of things here. The ink in these tends to stain plastic. You might think that's not a good thing, but you can actually kind of use that to your advantage in certain situations here for weathering, or as I like to do sometimes, I like to tint clear parts with these. They actually work pretty good at that. And again, you get a variety of colors here to work with here. I also use these for another little trick here, which I'll probably show you later in the tutorial here. I can kind of use these to stain nubs, so that nubs can kind of disappear with these. So it's a neat little trick here, and I'll show you that when I get to talking about nubs and everything here. And just some final stuff here. For panel lining and everything, you are going to want to have some Q-tips on hand to clean up your panel lines, whether you're doing the markers or the panel line marker here, the pouring type markers, or you're actually doing an actual panel line wash. You want to have these on hand, because if you want to use like some paint thinner to clean up your lines, or in my case I tend to use alcohol a lot for cleaning up the ink from all of these pins, and that works pretty well for me here. So, and I use a little dropper for dropping just a little dab of alcohol into the Q-tips and cleaning up that way. Also, you can have a white plastic eraser on hand. These are good, especially good for the panel line markers here. They can clean up pretty easily without having to go into using the Q-tips and everything here. Sometimes I use these also. And toothpicks, which are probably going to be one of the most handy things you're going to have on hand. Get a box of toothpicks. You can use these for cleaning out little crevices or mistakes in panel lines, or for scraping paint out of little spots you can't reach and everything, or for sticking a part on it and painting it on the part while it's on the toothpick here. That's good too, and then you're going to stick the toothpick in something just to hold it while it dries here. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for everything I got here. I don't think I missed anything. Oh, and of course, if you're doing any type of detail painting, have some paintbrushes on hand. I have a couple right here which I tend to use the most here, but I also got a couple paintbrushes I use exclusively for panel line wash and for decal work here, so I tend to keep those separated from my painting paintbrushes here. Oh, and before I forget, probably the most obvious thing that was on that counter here, a cutting mat. Almost forgot about the cutting mat. Anyway, yes. You can also get yourself a nice cutting mat. Tamiya makes several cutting mats. There are cutting mats you can find at many different arts and crafts stores that are not Tamiya brand, but are pretty decent as well here. So if you're cutting on a table, get a cutting mat of some kind so you don't cut into your table here. It's pretty handy to have. Alright. Other than that, I think I covered everything here. Like I said in the start of the video, this is not, you don't have to have all of this stuff that you want to do Gunpla. This is just the stuff I tend to use the most here. And a lot of the stuff I kind of accumulated over the years here. But like I said before at the beginning of the video, you want to have a good pair of nippers, good knife, and panel line markers. That's basically what you need. But I'm going to show you how I use most of this stuff. I'm probably not going to use all of this stuff here, but most of it I probably will here. So, but that's kind of it for this part of the video. Kind of around to 18 minutes here. I didn't mean to go on that long here, but next video we'll talk about the kit that I have on hand here, and what you want to look at when you unbox it. And this is what we're going to be doing. Master Grade Wing. Alright, see you in the next video. Bye bye.